Welcome back to Budget 2022. All right, call it to order. Looking for an adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any additions or deletions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 3, capital project funding, facilities assessment, immediate action items.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. Administration is bringing this item forward just for clarity and also to obtain council's confirmation of the funding for the immediate action items identified in the facilities assessment report. At the March 13 council meeting, council passed the motion that they direct administration to use available funds in the stabilization reserve or unspent MSI dollars to go towards facility assessment, immediate needs minus the cost identified for the Civic building and the Memorial Arts Center. I wanted to just have an opportunity to review the entire funding that had already been approved and potentially what we still were looking at, because there was some hesitancy on council's part to be able, well, we couldn't identify what was really needed in terms of funding. So I've provided you with a summary attached to the agenda item. And basically what I wanted to do is start at the beginning, and the beginning was being what the facilities report said were the immediate action items. And the total proposed project costs for that were $4,153,000. So from those proposed project total cost, there was a cost of $2,955,300 for the Civic Center, which is the arena, and it included the ice plants. The original estimate had the ice plants at $942,500 plus the second one at $725,000 for a total of $1,667,500. Administration went forward to get a current estimate of what it would be to replace one ice plant as well as to bring the secondary ice plant up to code or to standard. And the funding that was needed for that was 1.1 million. And so we brought that item forward to council for approval. At the time, it was to be funded from the infrastructure tax reserve and the stabilization reserve. And I recommended that it be funded from MSI, and council agreed. So there's the reduction in the funding required for the ice plants then of $567,500. So starting at the top, we're starting to reduce the amount of the funding required for the immediate action items. Then we took out the reduction in the funding required for the water treatment plant. This was one of the items that we hadn't talked about previously. However, with the city going towards the MCC shortly, it was discussed that we would remove the water treatment plant at this time and allow the MCC to take care of the repairs that were needed for that particular facility. Then, as was in the motion, we reduced the funding required for the Memorial Hall of $67,500, and we further reduced the funding required for the Civic building of $209,000. So the total reduction in the funding required was $968,700. So the revised project total costs are $3,184,300. Is everyone with me so far? Okay, great. So then the funding approved for the ice plants from MSI was the 1.1 million. Further funding approved in the 2022 capital budget for the Civic Center upgrades was the $1,053,000 that council approved with the capital budget, reducing then our requirement to $1,031,300. Funding approved during the 2021 budget deliberations from the infrastructure tax reserve was $594,650. Administration is proposing that $405,000 of that amount for the multiplex be funded from MSI. or the original amount was allocated from the infrastructure tax reserve. So this would bring down the requirement to 436,650. The estimated cost savings from in-house work, and this is where Ches had indicated that there were some smaller items in the facilities plan that he felt they would be able to do in-house. Now, the dollars remaining that we're going to be funding will include some of the supplies that they'll need in order to do some of this work in-house. However, the labor saving would be the 21,000 estimated. So the additional funding required is 415,650. Administration would like to propose that the funding for the By the Lake Park project be from MSI, and that was 180,200, leaving a fund balance from infrastructure tax of 235,450. So basically, what we're looking at is a summary of the breakdown of the costs. For MSI would be the ice plant. The Civic Center would be 1,053,000, which is already approved. If we add the multiplex of 405,000 to an MSI project and the By the Lake of 180,200, we would have 2,738,200 to be funded from MSI. Then the infrastructure tax reserve would be the balance of the 425,100, and that's the amount that that's already been approved and is in the infrastructure tax reserve. With the in-house savings of 21,000, the total then becomes the 3,184,300, which is the total amount of funding required to address all of the immediate needs in the facilities assessment study. Are there any questions? I wanted to, bring this forward just for clarity, to provide some clarification as well for council in terms of what was being done, as well as where the funding was going to come from. So at this point in time, what we're looking for is a motion to add the two projects that we identified, which is the one sec. Sorry, the multiplex for 405,000 and the By the Lake Park for 180,200 to the 2022 capital project or the capital budget, because those projects were not identified specifically in the capital project. It was the outstanding at the time that we approved the 2022 capital budget. So we'd like to have each of those, or council to pass a motion to add each of those to the capital budget for 2022 with the funding from MSI for both of them.
Through the mayor to Diana, can you remind me what the Civic Center costs are related to? I'm trying to find them and I just.
You're talking about the 1,053,000?
Yes.
So that was a capital project that included a lot of the electrical work and all of the upgrades that were needed for the curling rink.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do we call the building where the open door was?
The Civic
Civic
building.
building. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Civic Center is the curling rinks, and
Well, that's where I was getting.
I was too.
We're selling that, aren't we?
Yes.
Thank you.
Through the chair to Diana. If this gets approved, where does that leave both the infrastructure tax reserve and the MSI?
There are still
Budgets.
funds available in both of those.
Do you know the dollar value off the top?
I don't know if I brought that with me. Don't believe I brought that with me today.
But there's still money in both of those.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And so then what would the, I guess through the chair to Sue, so what would the plan be with regard to any unspent MSI money at this time?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, I with the reduction that we're anticipating in future years, I think we would try to save what we can right now to put towards future years. We have enough funding for the work that we can handle for this year.
And so there's no need. So we can carry over the MSI money indefinitely.
Not indefinitely, but certainly for the life of the program, we're allowed to carry forward. I would anticipate in years moving forward, especially with a reduction coming, we're going to maximize in the future years.
Okay, thank you.
And I think as I indicated earlier as well, when I requested the ice plants being funded from MSI, that was because we hadn't been using up our annual allotment. And generally speaking, when you don't provide projects for the annual allotment, you don't get the funding. And so we want to make sure that we have enough projects to basically ensure we are entitled to all of the funding that we've been basically eligible for. And as I said before, it's better to spend someone else's money before your own.
Do you want some motions on the floor, sir? All right. I move the council directs administration to add to the 2022 capital budget, a capital project for the multiplex with a budget of $405,000 to be funded from MSI. I would move that council directs administration to add to the 2022 capital budget, a capital project for the By the Lake Park of $180,200 to be funded from MSI.
I couldn't find anything in here exactly what that 180 was pertaining to.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, the majority of it is the elevator. I believe the elevator itself is 150,000. And then there are some other pieces that go with it.
It's kind of what I thought. And to be honest with you, we kind of talked about this before, that how much actually is this elevator being used? We have for the people with mobility issues, I believe that there is a stair lift there. And the majority of, like you say, that's a lot of money for something that's going to get very little use.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, that stair lift is the elevator. That's what they're referring to.
But isn't there an elevate, like an Otis elevator, and then is there not an elevator?
No,
Yes.
it's the lift is the
It's just the
elevator.
elevator?
Yeah.
No, there's an elevator there.
There's an elevator there.
Yeah, as soon as you go in, it's right to your right hand side.
Correct.
It's a lift.
No.
So are we talking-
Natasha.
If I may, yeah, there is an elevator, no stair lift at By the Lake Park.
Is there not a stair lift as well?
No,
There's not, there's just the elevator.
and it's not like a real elevator.
Right. Really old school. Yeah.
Field trip, yeah. Go and recess and we'll head out to By the Lake Park. And that's full replacement of it. Yeah. Anything else? Everybody's looking at me and perplexed, bewilderment. Go ahead.
So picking up on Councillor Billingsley's comment. I know sometimes the elevators used to bring beverages and so forth into the facility, but I guess it's through the chair to Natasha. What would an actual stair lift? Could that stairwell accommodate a stair lift as opposed to replace the elevator?
Through the chair to Counselor Nielsen, that stairwell is pretty wide, so I would assume so, but I don't know for sure. I know we have one at Memorial going down into the basement, and that would be a similar size stairwell.
And would you happen to know an approximate cost for that kind of a device versus an elevator? Seeing as how we had one in the Memorial Center?
I'm sorry, I do not. That was installed, I think, well before my time, but I could certainly find out.
I've been in there for like funerals and lunches and have watched people with severe mobility issues or in one of those motorized scooters that a stair lift like that wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Go ahead.
And also, people with mobility issues find it sometimes demeaning to be on display in front of everybody going up and down. I know I had relations that felt that way, that everybody's watching me, and at least in the elevator, and there are lots of people who come for weddings and anniversaries and things as well upstairs there. And so
Yeah.
we don't know how many use it, but I think we may be there someday, Wayne, so.
Yeah.
And you need you need one or two people to get you from whatever device you're in onto that chair as well. Good.
And a stair lift wouldn't accommodate a wheelchair either, would it?
No.
So then we have an issue of,
Yeah.
is the family trying to take it up the stairs and then, which isn't so bad and coming down, but I'm good with either one because like you guys, I could be there quick too. So.
Just a minute here. This is getting a little personal.
Gabby and I are so far away.
And the rest of you, I'll carry you up the stairs if need be.
I was at one point too, so far away.
Anything else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
There's another one there. I'd like to move to the balance of the funding to address the remainder of the immediate action items from facilities assessment estimate at $425,100 be funded from the infrastructure tax reserve.
Moved by Counselor Nielsen. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Rcmp 2022 operating budget. Make sure your mic's.
And members of council. Again, at the March 13th, 2022 budget deliberations, council deliberated on the 2022 operating budget, and at the end of the day's deliberation, projected a 7.34% increase in the tax requirement for 2022. Council then directed administration to review the budget and bring back options to reduce the tax requirement to 3.0%. So what administration has done is we've gone and looked at the draft budget and come up with some proposals and some options for council. Can you put this up on the board now? Are we sharing it? I'm looking at to start out with the projection of the tax impact one. Yes. Thank you. So to begin with, one of the things that we've identified, we looked at the revenues and we could increase the fees to the mortgage companies. So prior to 2021, the city of Wetaskiwin was not charging mortgage companies for the administrative work that's required to add mortgage companies onto the property files, take them off, or to submit a report to them on an annual basis of the taxes that that particular mortgage company was paying on behalf of the property owners. So in 2021, we initiated that when we use the $10 tax search fee to charge the mortgage companies. That $10 is significantly lower than what other municipalities are charging. And so administration looked at the amount that we were charging, and we determined that if we increased the mortgage company fee from $10 to $30 per property, that we would experience an increase in fees of $15,000, therefore an increase in revenues. If council chose to include that particular item into the 2022 operating budget, we can still do that. We would have to add the mortgage company fee to the fees and charges. And because we have not done our tax levy at this point in time or notified the mortgage companies, we could do that in the 2022 calendar year, should council choose to accept that particular fee increase.
Councilor Billingsley?
Do you want to go through all of these, or should we talk about each individual one?
What would you prefer?
You can talk about each individual one, and then we can make notes as to whether they're included or not.
Sure. So currently we're charging $10.
Correct.
You're moving it to 30. What do other municipalities charge for this service?
Anywhere from $30 to $40 per property.
Thank you.
Anything else on that?
Okay. So is that something that we should include?
Straw poll? I don't have my plates, so. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I put it in the wrong. My bad. I'll do that. So the next item was an increase in revenues from fire. This particular one, Paul had brought to our attention, and essentially there were some areas of fire revenues that were not being invoiced. And should those revenues, which we are entitled to, be invoiced, we had experienced an increase in revenues from fire of approximately $14,000.
Go ahead.
If we've been misbilling, I don't think we really need to vote on this. If it's something that we've missed billing out, shouldn't that just be
The way.
make it so?
Okay, done. The next one was an increase in fine revenues from no warnings. So basically this is in the bylaw area, pardon me. And they had indicated that up till now, council had wanted them to issue warnings instead of giving them the ticket on the first offense. And should council choose no longer to issue warnings to people who are breaking the law, then we would experience an increase of approximately $5,000 per year.
I wouldn't like to see that. I think that education should come first before the fine. That would be my preference.
Mr. Chair, is this for alarms going off and nothing's happening? Kind of a false alarm?
Or is this strictly fire, or is this anything
No,
in terms of bylaw?
this is bylaw. This is where bylaw has stopped someone on a bylaw infraction. And instead of giving them the ticket at that time, they would actually give them a
Oh.
warning. So it's educational.
I'm sorry. I didn't enlarge this. I had fire revenue instead of fine revenue. So I'm going here with, I'll make my plus sign, okay?
Fire also has a first time offense as a warning.
Yes, that's where I was going, so.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see that change, although I would like to see a change in how bylaw and our CPO officers are addressing nuisance properties and making that a priority. Not that that's a budget discussion. Yes or no on no warnings? No, no warnings.
I'm here now.
Diana, are we able to take that out so we can see in real time what it does to the tax rate?
I'm hoping so, yeah. And change
That's
it.
okay.
So then the
I got it
next
bigger
item
now.
was an increase in revenues from pet licensing. And basically, on that one, it is remove the grandfather clause from pet licensing. This would include both for dogs and cats, as well as increase animal licensing fees by 25%.
And we just went through all of this. I don't know that I want to increase it. I wouldn't want to increase it now after we've just been through all of the bylaw changes, so I wouldn't be in favor of this.
But at the same time, Mr. Mayor, when I asked the question, we are subsidizing the veterinary clinics for the animals that go there. The people whose animal gets picked up do not pay the full amount. So somewhere we should be offsetting that cost, I think. Whether we can ask the veterinarians to charge more, but somewhere we should be recouping those costs.
Yeah, and we went through a lot of that when we did the bylaw change. So I wouldn't want to have an increase and then an increase again following our previous, that's just mine. If you're
I just was
totally
thinking
well
of
within your right to,
some way to get the money back.
yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead.
Is it possible to split this into, we're talking about two different things. One is the grandfather. And then two is the
Increasing.
increase of 25%.
We do have the details on one of the other tabs.
Okay. So then to remove the grandfather clause from pet licensing, that would be $8,000 proposed increase. And the increase in animal license fees projected at $4,500.
Anything further? We can have it split out if you want. We'll do the first one as the grandfathering. That was 8,000, you said, Diana?
Yes.
So for grandfathering, is anybody in favor with changing that? No, no grandfathering. Yes, grandfathering, sorry, no increase. Grandfathering stays.
It's one of these you can't go wrong.
I think it's me explaining what's happening. That's the problem. Okay. No, the grandfathering stays as in there's no increase. Yeah, there's no increase. So that 8,000 is coming out. So now the 4,500 for increasing the pet licensing fee now. Any discussion? Not in favor? Not, nope, it is out. No increase. There, it's fine.
Okay, so the next item is an increase in the RCMP court fines. Currently, the budget is at 29,000. And back in 2018, the levels of fines that the RCMP were issuing were in the neighborhood of 80,000. So what we were suggesting is to establish the RCMP court fines at the same level as 2018. This should be attainable simply because, is it not working? Okay, this should be attainable because since 2018, court fines have increased significantly in terms of how much per ticket the costs are. So it would not be outside of the realm of possibility for the RCMP to go back up to 2018 levels.
Councilor Billingsley. You have your mic, please?
Why 2018 levels and not 2021 levels?
Because those were lower. The 80,000 that we're proposing this go up to did not occur subsequent to 2018. So since then, the court fines every year were significantly less.
So is this changing the rate that somebody pays, or?
No, this is changing to some extent, the direction that the RCMP would be given in the sense that they would be asked to issue more tickets or do more enforcement in that area, which they would appear that they have not been doing since 2018.
So this just becomes a target then, not necessarily like it's, if they choose to ignore the direction, this may not happen.
Correct.
It's probably, I would say that it's probably more attainable now with the increased members that we have in town as well. I could understand a few years ago when we were twice the calls for service and they had priorities elsewhere. I think with the increased numbers with our members, though, I think it should probably take care of itself, I would imagine.
So has discussion been made with the RCMP on this? Is this something that's a realistic expectation of the RCMP?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, we believe it is. We believe that Keith just had a different philosophy when he came in. When we look back when Fran was here, there were consistently higher numbers. And like Mayor Gandam said, now that he's got the extra members, and then he also in his presentation earlier today talked about more traffic stops. This will go hand in hand with that.
Anything else? Good with including it? Yep.
So the next item is an increase of 10% in swimming lessons and ice rates. That would give us an additional $30,170. And if you have any questions regarding that, I believe Natasha will be able to answer them for you.
Natasha, how quickly do the swimming lessons sell out?
It is on. To the chair, when we went live with our spring lessons, they were sold out in an hour.
Can we add classes or do we not have the capacity for that?
So we are looking into it. We have just started a lifeguard recruitment program to hopefully get some new instructors in the door, but that's at capacity. Like we are offering everything we can currently.
Would that change? So I know that recreation is obviously subsidized, but if we increased programming, does that then increase how much operations are, or does that increase revenues?
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. I think it still increases revenues because regardless, we're wanting to get back to our pre-COVID lessons, which currently we're not at. So we're just trying to get back to where we were in terms of the amount of lessons we're able to offer.
Right, so more programming would be more revenue, not necessarily subsidizing those programs.
Correct.
Okay.
Through the mayor to Natasha. Natasha, with regard to ice rentals, what is the hourly cost approximately?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott. It depends whether you're local youth or non-local youth. So
No,
it's
but I
broken
just mean
down.
our operational cost. Like,
Oh,
is it $220 an hour, $250 an hour?
for both arenas, I believe it's right around $240.
240. So we're subsidizing adults and non-local adults to use our ice.
Currently, yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? With the increase? Increase.
The next item is the increase in memorial cemetery revenues. And that would just entail an increase of basically what was happening is that the revenues were not being budgeted for as was reflected in prior years. So what we're doing is we're increasing the amount of the revenues to reflect the amount of the revenues we've had in the last few years. The amount of the increase is offset by an agreement that you have with the, I believe it's with the county, to pay 50% of the revenues to the county. So the net increase for the memorial revenues, even though the actual revenues are more like $40,000, the memorial revenues, the net amount is only the 21,600.
So where is that change coming from?
Sorry, the 21,600.
Yeah.
That's based on my calculation of the amount of the revenues, and then the calculation of what we would have to, we have to pay 50% of the revenues to the county. So that's the amount of the increase at 50%.
So Diana, that was actuals you've looked at. We were understating our revenues.
Yes, correct.
So there's no change to fees, nothing.
It's just reflecting the revenues
actuals.
based on what, yeah. And
Okay.
then also taking into account the fact that we have to pay the county 50% of those revenues. That's in the agreement.
So again, this is one of those things that we're doing, so it's not a yes or no. We're not changing anything.
So that's it.
Mr. Mayor, just to go back to recreation, so the county gets 50% of the rates from this, but they don't pay for the curling rink? Is that correct?
This was for the cemetery.
No, I know, I'm
Oh.
just trying to get in my mind, so they're getting half of people who are being buried in our cemetery plots.
Yeah, but they pay for half of
Yeah.
the
Yes,
cemetery operations.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so the next item, then we head into expenses, and administration discussed this particular item, and what we did is we pooled all of the stationary items and determined that we could take a 1/3 of the costs of the stationary and reduce the expenditures by that amount by basically group or lumping all of them into one line item under our procurement department. So that's what we felt that we would be able to experience in terms of reduced or an efficiency basically and reduced costs for the stationary.
so can we not do more electronic as well to reduce the cost of stationery, billing and people paying on a monthly basis, those kinds of things? So then we could cut stationery costs even more, like the monthly water bill, those kinds of things.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, with the MCC coming on board, that is something that more than likely they will promote is being able to do the electronic bills. But at this point in time, we have not got everybody's email in place in order to do the e-billing. But I would anticipate once the utilities are being done by the MCC that they will also be encouraging that. But in these savings, it's none of the utility, the water, the wastewater utility stationary costs are included.
I was just thinking, we have postage included with the stationery when we're mailing all these things out. So we're paying postage plus we're paying for stationery. You could have my email address right now and send me the bill. No, I'm serious. Before MCC takes over, if the city, and then when MCC takes over, you just transfer my name to that company. I think we could be more efficient and save some money there.
We have a timeline for e-billing.
Yeah, we've been working on it. And the last time I talked to finance, they were just in touch with Central Square to find out what pieces still needed to be put in place for that. So it is something that we plan to roll out still.
How do we then make it a priority that that's the direction we go? Because we've been talking about this for a number of years.
Yeah.
How do we then say,
We stopped the turnover.
fair enough?
So I take it council is in favor of that one. So then administration also went through all of their training and development budgets and reduced the training budgets by 36,000 in total.
What does that do internally?
Yeah, so Candace went through specifically, the majority of it is from the HR budget. There was some reduced in other areas as well. But what we had planned was, we talked about the mandatory training with customer service, Indigenous awareness, and all of the pieces that we wanted every employee to have. And we had calculated every year to run every employee through. So for two reasons. One, we're already a quarter of the way through the year. We reduced one of each of the trainings. And then realizing that we're not actually going to have to put everyone through every year. We're not anticipating that much turnover. So we were able to reduce it even a little bit further. And that's one of the ones that we'll monitor.
We also included in there a reduction of $2,000 in councils. So there was to remove council planning sessions or $1,000 and remove $500 from FCM and AUMA registrations, totaling a total of 2,000. So that's included in 36,000 as well.
Good with that?
Okay. The next item up is a reduction in hardware, plumbing, and electrical. Some of these expenditures are in some of the facilities that there was the facility study. And because there's going to be approximately $425,000 allocated to various facilities throughout the city that, that the facilities group are going to be looking at. Some of the costs for the hardware, plumbing, and electrical would have been included in that 425,000 that we talked about earlier. So therefore, Ches felt that he could reduce some of his budget line items to offset some of the work that's going to be done under the facilities study. And that amounted to a total of 21,300.
Any discussion? Good. Thank you.
The next item is a reduction in janitorial supplies. Don't have any notes on this, but again, Ches went through all of the line items and determined that there were areas that he could reduce the janitorial supplies. Some are, $200, $300 per account, but because there's multiple accounts, it adds up to $9,500 overall.
This was also one of those areas where we felt moving it over to the inventory control area. They could order pallets of stuff instead of each department ordering boxes of stuff. So they were able to reduce through that as well.
Any discussion? Good with that? Thank you.
So the next item is reduction in traffic signals. Again, the director went through, or pardon me, the general manager went through and identified several accounts where there were traffic signals and felt that they could reduce the annual cost by $5,300 from those.
Make sure your mic's on.
Could you explain exactly? Does that mean less yellow lights? What exactly does this mean?
Just one second.
I think most of it was signage as well.
Yes.
So in the transportation department and traffic signals, we've got those pedestrian activated ones. We've had a discussion with that department saying actually that stuff needs to go through an engineering vetting process. We can't just, because a resident wants new flashing lights put up, we can't just install them. So A, the budget was, Kathy felt was a little bit too high, and B, once we run it through a proper process, we're going to have less of those being installed.
And that the total again is 5,300 as we're able to remove from the budget.
They're just going to take the yellow lights out of the traffic signal. So it'll go green to red and
It's
it'll,
cheaper.
and it'll increase our
RCMP
ATE.
revenue.
Well, we just leave them all red.
I'm sure I will. I don't know what turnaround time is. What is turnaround time on a ATE?
one in many years, so I wouldn't know. I think it's supposed to be within 3 weeks, though. They're
Yeah,
supposed to
another
come.
week. For what?
You think you're getting one, do you?
I'm not sure. Thanks for your contribution, Councillor Blatz. Go ahead, Diana.
So the next item is a reduction in equipment rentals and supplies. And once again, another look at the line items. And it was determined that we could reduce it by 6,100.
Any discussion? Good with that?
The next expense item is the elimination of the cost of operating the Annex building. With the transition to the MCC, these costs would no longer be incurred by the city, and this would be a combination of electrical and, or pardon me, you know, your utility bills, some maintenance, that sort of thing, and it was prorated effective July 1, and the amount of the saving would be $77.15.
Any discussion? No, good with that?
The next item is the reduction in community events and promotion. And basically, what we're looking at here is the discontinued funding for the CEC committee. This is of $25,000, which has been included in the budget. Also eliminate the Taste of Wetaskiwin, which is $10,000 that was included in the budget. Similarly, the engineering and development felt that they could reduce their advertising and promotion by $900. And then in recreation, we reduced the biannual program guide by 15,000 because they're moving towards a virtual guide. Same with and adding the Canada Day celebrations of 10,000. So they basically eliminating all of city sponsored events such as the city open house and customer appreciation and a parade would result in a total savings of those items of $65,000. And then the cost reduction, reduced staff hours if the pool was to close at 7:30 p.m. daily and was open from 12 till 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, there would be a savings of $26,600. And then in solid waste and recycling in their advertising and promotion budgets, $500 reduction in both of those.
Diana, can we show the sheet that has the details? Because I'm sure they're going to want to talk about each one.
So can you go down? Oh, it's the level of service one. So there's the March 28th, the revenues, expenses, and the level of service. Just right on that spreadsheet. Yeah, right there. So that's the breakdown of the 128,500. Essentially, we looked at it as a reduction in the level of service.
Councillor Everly.
Thank you. I cannot support this. I cannot support anything that is taking more out of recreation or eliminating, and I kind of have an interest in this, but eliminating Taste of Wetaskiwin, eliminating any money going towards Canada Day, eliminating the book that groups use to help promote the things that go on. One of the largest complaints I hear about our community is that there's not enough to do here. And I think we all know that that's not necessarily true, but the parade of programs, the program itself, as well as what happens at the drill hall, are fundamental for groups to be able to get their word out. The year that it was put online and taken away from our mailboxes, there was a huge outroar there. And I just cannot in this year where we are finally able to celebrate our city, celebrate getting together after 2 years of not being able to do any of these things. I cannot support it how it's written. So, thank you.
Counselor Blatz.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm against getting rid of Taste of Wetaskiwin, Canada Day celebrations, but I am in favor of discontinuing the funding for the CEC, reduction of advertising and promotion. And I would actually like to see the program guide just be online, and we could easily just use QR codes for people to scan when they go to Parade of Programs instead. I think $15,000 is a lot of money to be printing some program guides that people throw out, and it creates a lot of waste. And so I would be in favor of that moving online. But I do agree, city-sponsored events, it's really important, especially now that we're all getting back together again. I would really like to see that actually have more of an effect on the community by bringing us all back together. And the pool closing at 7:30, I honestly could be in favor of, just for seeing as how we're in a really bad year for costs. And so if that can save us some money, then I think that that's a good thing.
The hours are limited now, aren't they? Because they close early tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, the only nights we're open until 9 currently are Wednesdays and Fridays.
And what are your regular Saturday, Sunday hours?
Right now, they're reduced to 11 till 6. It used to be on Saturdays, we were open 8 to 8.
Have you heard many complaints about that?
Yeah, we receive a lot of feedback from the public asking when we're going to go back to our public swim all the time, open all the time hours. So.
Do you have the breakdown of that whole?
Yeah, so it's up there now.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was the old spreadsheet.
Yeah, no, that's the spreadsheet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. While there are some items here that I am in support of, there are a number of items here that I am not. I would echo Councillor Aberley's comments. And whether you discontinue or not CEC, I think the money should still be set aside to make sure that there is dollars available to put on a community event or activity if there is an interest in doing so. I could eliminate the Taste of Wetaskiwin. I'm not sure how many people it serves in terms of attendance. I also think that having a print program is important in the community.
Councillor Nielsen, can we just go through it each one
One
by
at a
one?
time?
Yeah. Sorry,
Sure.
we'll just go through, and then otherwise we'll have 7 people talking about what they
Yep,
want,
you
what they
bet.
don't want. So we'll start off with the funding for the CEC at 25,000. Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. As the chair of the CEC, I'd be a little disappointed to see the 25 grand go. Councillor Nielsen kind of alluded to, or maybe it was Mayor Ganem said, having dollars set aside going forward. And for me, if there is money set aside, that could be whether it's the parade or the Taste of Wetaskiwin. My concern of those other two, which I know I'm jumping a bit, is who's going to administer them? Who's going to put this on? We don't have the position to do these things. So I'm going to say yes to the CEC.
Yes, meaning cut it or keep it?
Keep it.
Any other discussion? Thumbs up or no, go ahead. Councillor Blatz.
Can we just clarify that thumbs up and
Thumbs
thumbs
up
down?
means
mean-
keeping
thumbs
keeping
up,
it in,
Keeping it into this.
keeping it in the budget, not cutting it.
Okay.
Thumbs up means you want to keep $25,000 in the budget for the CEC. Go ahead.
And I'm in favor of keeping $25,000 in the budget. to make sure that we have money to do an event. Now, if it's determined to be the CEC, I'm okay with that. But I'm not necessarily just saying, yes, we have to have the CEC, but I think we need to have some money set aside so we can run some events in the community for our citizens. So I'm a yes.
I totally agree to that. And again, it's easier and maybe, I mean, some would argue it's not being fiscally responsible. If you don't have something tied to it, why are you keeping it in the budget? But I think it's easier to have that in the budget to make it happen than it is to try to add it later on. I would be in support of keeping $15,000 for that. And again, whether it's a CEC or not, but I would at least see a little bit of a reduction there of $10,000. So I'd be in favor of $15,000. So as presented, keeping the $25,000. Okay, $15,000. 15 stays, so cut 10. Taste of Wetaskiwin, Councillor Aberley.
Thank you. As a person who works on this and has from the beginning, I like Tyler, excuse me, like Mayor Gandon, I would entertain reducing the amount. I would not entertain eliminating the event. There are some ways that the committee could work on getting some of that money back, but really at the end of the day, it is running, so it is only 500 people that can go. We are looking at one day increasing those numbers if we can, but that is also promoting local businesses. It is with the restaurants, it's a lot of advertising for the restaurants who are involved. We have aspects of it that is promoting local artists and culture in general. It is more than just an event. And I know as we're coming up for this year, we're trying to move it beyond that one evening of things in that. So it is more than one evening, and it is more than just that $10,000. I could see it still being a huge success at 8. I know that's only a couple thousand. 5, we would still be able to do things. So I just want to give council an idea as to what those costs would be in that, but it's not just about one day. And I think that as we work with our local restaurants and groups like that, that it is worth its money for our community.
Through the chair to council, it's my understanding that this $10,000 is actually for a second Taste of Wetaskiwin event in 2022. In 2021, there was $10,000 budgeted, but they weren't able to do the event. So a portion of the funds in 2021 were funded, but the balance has been carried over into 2022.
Yep.
So in 2022, you'll be able to do the one event in anyway.
I can speak to that. So $8,000 was money we could not get back. It was promotion, advertising, getting tickets printed. We had already started the event going forward. So we are looking at this year having 2 events. One being we haven't decided fully because we had to move the meeting because of me, but a summer sort of brought to you by Taste of Wetaskiwin, an event in that $8,000, maybe not using all of it, and then going back to the original Taste of Wetaskiwin for the fall.
So right now, without any change to the budget, we'll still have a Taste of Wetaskiwin. We'll have one Taste of Wetaskiwin.
We could, if we weren't making any changes right now, there would be two events. There would be a summer, we're thinking market, but I can't say that for sure because we haven't a sort of like a, I'm going to say a fringe festival, but a summer event where we were going to use that money for something this summer to bring people together. That's the $8,000 that was left from last year. And then we're going to look to another fall event for $10,000, if that makes sense.
You spent $2,000 last year for things you couldn't.
Exactly. And
Right.
then because we had that 8, we thought,
you
is
still
there
run an
something
event,
else we
yeah.
could do with that money?
But then going forward for 2023, if we only had one event this year based on last year's carryover, is there an increase to the budget next year to host one event? Or is that already in the budget?
No, there would be an increase. If you took the $10,000 out from the 2022 budget, there would be an increase in the 2023 because the $8,000 is the carryover from your 2021 budget, and you would have nothing in your 2022. So 2023, you'd have to bring back the 10,000 in for that event.
I would be in favor of continuing on with one event this summer and then looking at it for next year about continuing on with the Taste of Wetaskiwin. So it's not like we're not going to have an event this year based on the carryover of funds, and then for 2023 decide whether or not that's something we're going to keep doing.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So I thought the Taste of Wetaskiwin was a specific event, the Taste of Wetaskiwin, but then you're talking about doing something else.
Yeah, 100%. And I understand that. And that's where to be perfectly honest, and that is if it was to come to us, we're meeting this Thursday, if it was to come to us and say, we're not giving you the $10,000 this year, use what you had from last year, we would go with that.
Okay, and I guess I'm a little confused on this as well. Like it shows economic, I thought this was a city department running thing, but it sounds like there's an
The
organization.
city department works as a partner with 4 other partners in the event. They provide, the city provides funding, upfront funding, and then we, through ticket sales, that's how we pay for the rest of it. But out of those ticket sales, if you, for example, if you, a $2 sample for food, that $2 sample goes back to the restaurant. So does that make sense? So it comes out of economic development, and it used to be under community development that got the money. And
So
the rest of us put in kind funding
so
towards
this
it.
really isn't an ec dev department thing.
It falls under that in their mind, and now I'm speaking for ECDEV, who isn't here, but for their mind, because we are promoting local businesses.
Sue?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, in 2019, when we went through the budget in great detail, we took all of the events that was in the former Department of Community Development and we divided it between the CAO and Recreation. And this was one of the pieces that stayed in the CAO's budget for ECDEV.
Similar to what CEC.
Yes.
So could we look at, since CEC at this point has nothing going on of taking some of that money and put it towards this? They're essentially similar things, similar in what they do. And I'm not discounting what it's.
Yeah, no, I understand totally.
Are you saying using that 15,000 for the CEC for this, so that the CEC doesn't have an event, or are we still having?
At this point, we're down to 3 members. There is nothing on the table for the CEC to do anything at this point.
So then you're proposing 2 events then, Taste of Wetaskiwin-ish? One is their summer event and then the regular.
No, not at all. I'm thinking more of somehow the CEC can be involved in this and funding this, and I don't think you need to fund both things.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Nelson.
Thank you. for me, the whole notion, when the CEC was first discussed, was how do we create a family-oriented activity? And pre-COVID, I think there was lots of good success. I think COVID put some restrictions on the CEC in terms of the kinds of activities they could or couldn't run. I would hate to see us moving money out of what potentially was initially designed to create family-oriented activities and putting it into another adult or, oriented activity. So I wouldn't be in favor of moving money out of what was the CEC, because I would argue strongly in favor of some family activity and still leave the Taste of Wetaskiwin some dollars to put on an event for the year.
So that would mean then taking $10,000 out if you only want one Taste of Wetaskiwin-ish.
And what, I guess through the chair to Sue, so for Diana, the $8,000 that was allocated, does that not come back into surplus? Do they really have that $8,000 sitting there?
Yes, they do. We established a carry forward reserve several years ago. And basically the intent of that is exactly for this particular reason. If you have an event that was scheduled in 2021 and council approved the 2021 budget with funding for that event, however, for whatever reason, the event could not happen, then there could be the request from administration to carry those funds over into 2022 in order to run the event that year. So yes, those dollars through the year-end process will have been charged to the 2021 budget, and they'll be brought in as a transfer from reserves in 2022.
Thank you. Then through the chair to Karen, you indicated that you could run, you thought, a Taste of Wetaskiwin on how much money?
I think that we could do something very similar with that $8,000. We could also do, I'm going to put this here because we could do something with 5. The advertising would be less. I'm not sure we would be able to get the businesses quite on board because they see that, or the restaurants quite on board because they do see it as us helping them with that. But as I've said to you guys before, and I've not sat at this table, I would walk away with $8,000 as a win. And understanding that, not that 5,000 isn't, but saying you have the 8,000 and take the 10,000 out this year, but not eliminating it altogether or eating the 8,000 that went from before. I think we all understand there's restraints that are happening. Many of the members of the committee are staff, City of Wetaskiwin staff members, but they're not the only ones. We're about 50-50 into that. And we're all just willing to do the best we can with what we have, if that's making sense. 8,000 would be, we could do it. It would mean one less runner, maybe a little bit less pipe and drape.
I'm all right with $10,000 going to this event. I'm opposed to a second event, which has never been approached by council to run a second event, so we'll just take the money. So I would see the $8,000 and then we throw another 2,000 in the pot, giving you $10,000 to run a Taste of Wetaskiwin. So we'd be eliminating $18,000 this year as opposed to 10.
Just 8,000.
They've got 8.
Yeah, but from our budget from this year, we would, if you gave them 2 to give them 10 from that carryover, we'd be taking $8,000 out of this budget.
Yes.
Right.
Because they're only, the increase is only $10,000.
The annual contribution to the Taste of Wetaskiwin is $10,000.
Sorry. Okay. Gotcha. I'd be okay with 8,000.
You'd be okay with saving 8?
No, giving them 8.
Giving them 8?
Give them 8 or give them 2. They already have 8.
They have 8.
I
Yeah.
thought you talked to me the other way around. I want him to have 10 grand, make it work.
2 grand.
I don't have to look after the details, just make him have 10 and be done with it. Okay,
2 bills.
$2,000. Everybody okay with that?
No, I want 8.
Counselor Elliott. Oh, I'm sorry, you did.
Thank you. I just, as I look through our strategic plan, which was sent out with the CEO's message on Friday, one of our goals under community is we're as ambitious as any urban center, but we'll never abandon the little things that set us apart. Council, second paragraph says council remains committed to preserving Wetaskiwin's unique heritage and homegrown hospitality. There is some money left over from the CEC. There may be a round dance. There may be an arts and culture festival. We don't know what's coming, and there are people who organize those things and may be looking for help. So to throw out the baby in the bathwater and not have any money left over, if people want to do things, how are we remaining unique and things that set us apart? We're just going to become dull and ordinary. So I think we need to have some funds available in case something happens. If nothing happens, we have a surplus, and then it goes into next year's budget. So thank you.
Yeah, we did keep that $15,000.
No, but I'm just thinking we need to think about this as we go through all of this. We are unique in certain ways, and so we do away with Canada Day and the parade and all of these things, and all of a sudden people are going to Leduc for a Canada Day parade, or anyway, we just have to make sure we look at through our lens as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Keeping the Taste of Wetaskiwin at $10,000, which would give them 2 and save us 8.
Yes, I understand.
I'm
Well
saying for
said.
my own.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So that I understand. We're good with that? Thank you.
The next item is a reduction in the advertising and promotion in the engineering and development budget of $900. That one's fairly straightforward. The next item is in recreation, and this is where we are reducing the biannual program guide by $15,000 due to moving towards a virtual guide, and the Canada Day celebrations of $10,000.
So we'll start with the program guide first. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a waste with some of these that go out. I agree. They go to, my mother-in-law lived in Seasons, and they would all sit at the door, and there's a stack of them this big, and they're there. But there are people who are still not hooked up virtually, as even Inspector Durant said to us. Why couldn't we make up some copies, and I don't know how many, and have them placed at places like the Manluck Center, at the library, at the museum, and people could go and pick them up. They know that they were available to go and pick up, rather than having a complete mail out for the city of Wetaskiwin, and the rest of the people would know that they can access them virtually. Thank you.
I have a question that's really related. Natasha, the year that we first with that went virtual, did we not do that? The year that the program guide first went virtual, was there not? Because I remember the museum having some.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Eberly, that is correct. When we switched to virtual, we had a handful at the Manluck Center and a few other organizations within the city.
So would that mean we're reducing it more? Like, is there still an idea that we're going to have actual programs? Or is this to take programs out completely?
To the chair, our idea was to take it out completely and rely strictly on that QR code. We would still have the event at the drill hall, but we would do all of our advertising with that QR code for individuals.
Did you see were there many of those programs left over when you did have the actual copy?
To the chair, yes, there were. And when we used to do the mail out, we would get boxes to be recycled that weren't used. So there was a lot of waste.
Councillor Lonsdale.
Thank you, sir. At first, I was looking at trying to keep some. I'm kind of an old school guy too, you know, I like to actually have something to read. I still read newspapers. But with the explanation from Natasha that having left over when we did virtual and then boxes coming back for recycling, I would be in favor of eliminating the guide.
Anything else? To the program guide, cutting it. Thumbs up for cutting it as presented. Or thumbs down. Thank you. Canada Day celebrations. Any discussion? Councillor Billingsley.
So if we set aside $10,000 for it, who is going to administer it? Who at the city is going to spend this money? Who's going to organize it? It's one thing to set aside $10,000, and if you don't have the who's.
As the chair of the CEC, looking for something.
I'd have $25,000 to work with.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a former member of the Canada Day Committee, it was a group of people. It was the museum, the Legion. We had arbors involved because they're providing plants. There were a number of different organizations just to sponsor the event and have a pancake breakfast at the Legion, which was very well attended. And whatever costs, I don't know about the $10,000, but it was well attended and people look forward to celebrating Canada Day in our community. And as I said before, I don't want to see people going to Camrose and Leduc to celebrate Canada Day because we don't have anything. Thank you.
Councillor Everly.
Thank you. For council's information, the Canada Day Committee has met once. That was last Tuesday. Yeah, a week ago. How it's working right now is that there is multiple groups. I can let you know what groups were there. Everybody is, for lack of a better word, paying for their own things. So when it's not that $10,000 is going towards any of the groups specifically, but there will be money, for example, for the parade that the city has typically paid for the money that goes towards the parade, where you need for the not just advertising, but where you need for, stationary, things like that. Typically, the city has covered costs for the fireworks. We're looking at where those would be. In years past, there has been a grant that was applied for. Nobody has applied for that grant because historically, I don't want to say typically, the city of Wetaskiwin administration applied for that grant. There was no expectation from the committee in general that meets with the city to apply for that grant. So I think that moving forward, right now it's recreation that is coming to talk to the Canada Day Committee. I think going forward, where we know that the committee would need to apply for that grant on our own, do that sort of thing working forward, but this isn't money going towards, for example, the museum spending $1,000 on cake. That we're not asking for 1,000 out of that 10,000. We're thinking if that 10,000 was to be approved, that it would include the fireworks, where nobody has looked into funding those yet. It would include putting on the parade and the things that we need, maybe not decorating the parade route, but items like that that go along with having to put in the parade, because I think each group itself cannot afford to put money towards the advertising of Canada Day, the parade and the fireworks. We're already strapped. So that was that, again, helping, that's where the money goes towards, if that's the understanding. And it is being held by recreation, like by the city, by recreation. The committee is not deciding necessarily who gets the money. The city would decide what that money is for. Am I making sense? So, sorry, I apologize. So it has worked for 8 years. I've been in town 8 Canada Days now. For the past 8 Canada Days, there has been a multiple of groups coming together, and we all do something for Canada Day as one group. When the grant was there, we would help submit money from the federal government, and some of us would get money back, but for the most part, we don't. So when the Legion does something, the Legion does it and they pay for it. And we just advertise that this is happening at the Legion on this day. Same with the Heritage Museum, the pancake breakfast that used to be put on by the Lions. This year, FCSS is looking for an open house because we don't think the Christian Fellowship Group, and they might have had a different name then, are doing anything. So it goes towards advertising for all of the events and the fireworks. I can see as we go forward, we may not have to pay for the fireworks in other years now that the committee understands the city of Wetaskiwin does not have a person who's applying for that grant. But we used to, we'll have little fireworks, because before it used to be the city would give X number of dollars for fireworks and the grant would top that up and we'd have twice as many fireworks. Since we started doing a Canada Day parade, which I think has only been 3 years, that has always, the cost behind that have always been 100% city. None of us have put in towards a parade because we're doing our own things at our own institutions.
So pre-COVID, did we have a budget for Canada Day?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, we had this discussion over the last couple of weeks, and we do believe there was a budget and the grant was applied for, but with all the turnover, there was no process set down, no who's responsible for what. So it's kind of one of those things we're trying to find a home for right now and make sure that that process is followed. Yeah, we believe recreation, someone in recreation was handling it, but with the turnover that we've had, whoever that was, didn't pass on all that information.
And comms and ECDev were looking after it as well too a few years ago.
Yeah.
Communication and ECDev were also looking after it a few years ago as well.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, there's also the cost of some of the entertainment. There was a cost for some people who were dancing and singing and things,
That could be
which was kind of put into the pot and then
before
paid
my
for.
time, or if that was coming under the grant.
I've agreed to sing for free this year.
So we
couldn't
need
charge.
$20,000 so we can get entertainment, so Tyler doesn't sing.
Yes, you pay me to not sing.
I'll make it 20 if you don't sing.
Again, Mr. Mayor, if it's not spent, it would remain as a surplus. I think we need to move forward with this.
We've got that carryover reserve. In favor of cutting it, sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
So this reduction of $5,000. Sorry, this reduction of 30,000. So the $5,000 that remains will be going where?
The $5,000 that's remaining is for the virtual guide.
I agree. I don't know how you take an important event like Canada Day and simply say.
Is your mic on? Make sure you.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know how you take an important event for our community, for our families, for our neighbors, and just set it aside and say, somebody else look after this. I'm opposed to this reduction.
Okay, so right now, a thumbs up will mean you support the reduction.
Oh my God, that's so confusing.
To the
It's being
guy,
proposed right now as a reduction.
A reduction for the Canada Day, right?
Correct.
So there's $10,000 identified for the Canada Day celebrations.
Yes,
So, okay.
I
that's
am
fine.
not in favor.
of
Of
reducing.
This is what I want
reducing.
to do.
But how can we have $10,000 for Canada Day when we're cutting 30,000?
15 of it was the program guide that we cut.
I don't think he
Huh?
shows updated.
I haven't updated this yet. So right now, the 15,000 is the
It's not fine.
proposed.
No, I know, but it's not right. Plus 10 is 15. Yeah, now it's right.
So right now, there's a total of 20,000 remaining in that budget. 5,000 of it is for the virtual guide. 10,000 of it is for the Canada Day. And the other 5,000, we haven't identified a specific event. It's similar to the 35,000 on the next line. These are city-sponsored events such as the city open house, customer appreciation, or the parade. We've not identified all of the events that the city has hosted in the past in those line items, but those are the dollars that were allocated towards events such as those. So-
What parade would that be?
It didn't specify. I don't know if that was the Canada Day parade or if it was a Christmas parade. I'm not sure.
There's right now in the budget, there's $1,500 that goes to the fire department to put on the Santa Claus parade. So if that's what that would be, then that'd be part of that 35,000. But if it's part of the Canada Day parade, I don't know why it would be broken out from the $10,000 above.
Part of the problem was we didn't have enough notes in Questica before, so it was, we were going off of my written notes from budget that year. And I wrote parade. So we didn't have, we're looking back as, in the different departments and trying to say, okay, who managed what? We've got these lumps, they were big lumps, sums of money when we discussed it in 2019. I knew where they moved and generally what they were for. And then we were trying to match it with, talking to Natasha and people in her area. What did you used to do before and what events? So even some of those, we don't know exactly how much of the 35,000 was for the parade.
If it's a Santa Claus parade, $1,500.
I think it was, but because the only other parade we had was Canada Day and it wasn't every year. That's just been fairly new, right? And I don't think the parade cost us a lot of money. It was a lot of in-kind.
Yeah, and if I may, I know we were talking about the Canada Day committee will be before council sometime in April, because I told them to get their butts in gear. But we were going to ask for in-kind things, as in the barriers and the things like that. So that would be an addition. So I can't, and that's when I'm looking at it, the 10,000, I can't think that there would be that much going towards the parade. Really 10 for Canada Day and some in kind. That other parade.
So the $10,000 for Canada Day. If you would like to see it removed from the budget, thumbs up. If you want to keep it in the budget, thumbs down. Thank you.
So your worship, at this point, we've reduced the budget for that particular line item by 15,000, leaving 20,000. There's the 5,000 additional dollars that we haven't identified in that particular budget line item, which council can choose to remove or identify an event that they would like to see it to go towards.
I would, for me, if it's not attached to something, I would like to see it out of there. So a thumbs up would say, take the $5,000 out that doesn't have anything attached to it.
So then on the next line item, again, we're looking at 35,000, 1,500, I believe of that. Your worship has identified it for the Santa Claus parade to go to the fire. But other than that, unless council wants to identify specific events that they want to support and identify a dollar amount, then the only thing we would leave in there is the 1,500.
Natasha, do you know how much the customer appreciation portion is?
Not a lot. So it was just, you know, like a treat Thursday. I'm trying to think back to what we did, but it wouldn't be that significant, like $500 maybe.
Councillor Aberley?
Thank you, Mayor Gandon. Did that include things like Earth Day?
Through the chair to Councillor Aberley, that's not, as I understand it, included in this budget. That was an event put on by the engineering department, not included in here.
Okay. Thank you.
$2,500
For what?
for the parade. And then from there, $1,000 for an open house. Sounds like that would fit within your budget.
Would that cover it if we had food or?
To the chair, are you speaking for customer appreciation or for the city open house?
Which one were
Both.
you? Both?
Both.
So then 3,500, 1,000 for each?
Sure.
We can't do the city open house for $1,000. That was the one that we would bring all the equipment to the drill hall and buy food and open it up to the entire community. That one was significant. There was significant costs attached to that. What we'd like to do is move more towards a public works day. And there's a lot of help from APWA with posters and a bunch of other things, so we could move away from the entire, it was just a free barbecue for the community.
How much would it cost to just have a free barbecue for the community and not like
Not the
have
rest of
some of the pieces of equipment there to show off and some staff that are there, but not having a bunch of swag and all of the extras, just
Trying to think of how much it was similar to CEC, like $5,000. Not even. I'd have to look.
Then don't do it.
I'm thinking even for Earth Day, when we would do, I believe it was around 5,000 just to order food. Yeah, and we would, yeah, and even then we would most not run out, but
would
it was
be-
just enough. Yeah.
Can't do it because I stand by my 3,500.
what would you like included in that 3,500?
Santa Claus parade and
Some kind of open house?
yeah, like, you don't need to feed. For $5,000, that's a lot of money that are it's buying a lot of people lunch for no apparent good reason.
If we were to do just hot dogs, it's budgeted about $500. This was 2 years ago. But just looking, if you were to do just your basics, we could do it for about 800. And that's your coffee, barbecue supplies, condiments, hot dogs. Yeah, that would be your basics for about 800.
So then can we combine then the city open house and a customer appreciation? I'm just thinking of what they do, like we've got a new public workshop, right? So showing that off and doing a city open house, similar to what the county does, where you can kind of tour around and see it, and then offer hot dogs. So if we did 1,500 for the parade and then $2,000 for an open house to show off the new public works building, would that work?
It would.
So $3,500 parade and open house. Thumbs up means you support that.
Keep changing.
Just so you know. I'm here.
Oh, I know I am,
But at least
but
it's
I'm making your mind work.
Yeah.
I'm keeping you sharp. Reduce staff hours. Part of why we've got reduction in staff hours now, though, is because we don't have the staff for it, right?
To the chair, that is correct, but we are building back up, so we'll just see what's decided today.
I would like to see hours go back to what they were pre-COVID. Having the staff, obviously. Go ahead, Councilor Elliott.
I'll let Councillor Lonsdale go. I talked too much.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
I agree, Tyler, and
Deputy Mayor.
I was just gonna ask Natasha, because we had spoken earlier about ramping up our programs and trying to get more revenue that way, and just how much, if we stay at these hours, would it affect that? I know there's probably not a lot of kids things that go on in the evening, but adults and that type of thing.
Through the chair to Councillor Lonsdale. Yeah, it's typically just our busier public swims that are affected. So a lot of people like to come after supper time. And right now when we're open till 7:30, it doesn't maybe fully give those people the opportunity. So, but we are saving money, obviously, with not having to pay the lifeguards to be there until 9 o'clock.
Right. But I agree too. I'd like to see the pre-COVID hours.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Natasha. Natasha, on Saturdays, are there a lot of programs before noon?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott. Well, previous to this schedule, yes, we used to run our swimming lessons before noon. So we've changed that, and now our swimming lessons are 11 until 1.
Okay. So if you had your druthers, you would prefer to go back to the pre-COVID times?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, yes, I do think that the community is missing that. And it just gives people the opportunity to come visit the facility.
Thank you. I was in on Saturday afternoon and I could not believe how many people were at the pool. And then I was going out and there were still people coming, like families coming in. I was quite amazed at how many bodies there were.
It was like
So-
that yesterday afternoon too. The pool was packed.
So where I'm going with that is I feel that the need is there and I would like to see us open to pre-COVID times.
I agree. Councilor Billingsley.
And if there's demand, absolutely. I guess my concern would be pre-COVID, how much use was the building getting between 7:30 and 9? If the answer is reasonable amount, then absolutely, let's go back. But if it's onesies and twosies and the facility isn't being used, then there's no point in having it open. So I guess my question then would be pre-COVID, how busy was it from 7:30 till 9?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, I do not unfortunately have those kind of headcount numbers prior to, say 2019. I just know that the nights we are open until 9 o'clock have been busy, like we've been 3 guard, so.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
What's it mean? What's it mean?
If you would like to see a reduction in hours, give a thumbs up.
In houses?
in hours.
Get the other. earful.
So much for that surgery, eh?
I'm gonna write your surgeon a letter.
Repeat, please.
Would you like to see a reduction in hours? Thumbs up. If you don't want to see a reduction in hours, thumbs down. Thank you.
The other two items are basically just a reduction in the advertising and promotion for the solid waste and recycling areas. So at the end of the discussion, we're looking at a reduction of 71,400 in terms of the decisions that council made here. So that 71,400 has rolled forward here. So at this point, council is looking at a 5.42% tax requirement increase prior to talking about the confidential items.
Councilor Billingsley,
Can I add for discussion two others?
by all means.
Under protective services 52553. That was the radio equipment maintenance where we had $13,000 budgeted.
I could speak to that right now. So if the AFRAX is approved at the end of the day, that reduction will happen automatically. It's if the project is not approved, then the money has to stay.
So, okay. But then that will be reflected on our number here. You'll automatically take it out.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
we have
if
that number?
council's Approved AFRAX, if AFRAX is in there through
Yes.
MSI, then that money will automatically come out because it won't be needed then.
Okay, I do have one other one, and that was under fire prevention, fire prevention 52210, advertising and promotion. 2 years ago, they didn't spend any money. They did spend $4,000 last year, and in the budget this year is for $5,000. I would like to take a look at reducing that amount since we're reducing in other departments.
Did you want the reduction by the whole amount or a portion?
Do you have a breakdown, Sue, of how that's? Oh, okay.
For fire prevention, I'm going to assume it would be handouts, things given to kids at the school or when they do tours at the fire hall.
Would that be those books that third party company does?
I don't know where it would come from.
Yeah. I'll say $2,000 and we can have that conversation. Reduce it to
Reduce
$2,000.
to 2,000, okay. Any discussion on reducing the fire prevention budget to $2,000? Thumbs up if you are in favor of decreasing it to $2,000. You guys are gonna be so sharp with this. And fluent in Tyler as well. That covers you, Councilor Billingsley.
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to go in camera. Councilor Blatz, those in favor? Carried, thank you. Look for a motion to come out of camera. Moved by Councilor Lonsdale. Those in favor? Carried.
Diana, does that include the reduction of the AFRAX?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
right on line 26.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that city council directs administration to look at contracting out specific levels of service and report back to council by Q3 2022.
Your worship, if we could get a motion regarding the fees and charges that were discussed earlier, so that we can update the fees and charges bylaw. Yes, it's in the package. So there's several increases. So the first one was adding a fee for mortgage companies, but it's all listed there for council. So we would be looking for a motion for the mortgage fees, the swimming lessons and the ice rates, but not the increase in the animal licensing fees.
Yeah, I ask before I do so, how much of this I have to. Okay. I move that council direct administration to update the fees and charges bylaw with the following 1, 2, and 3.
We had talked about possibly unpersoning the recycling center. leaving that unpersoned for a savings of about $60,000. Any conversation on that?
Would this be an in-camera item?
Nope. Councillor Elliott.
I would vote against that, Mr. Mayor, just and to council. We have an attendant there at this point in time who's trying to keep things correct for the recycling companies to where our merchandise or our recycling things go. And even at that, there's still people putting cardboard in with the paper and all sorts of different things happening. I would think that the quality of what we're sending off to recycling would go down, which would probably affect what we're going to receive in lieu of all of that. So I think that the cash aspect would be reduced. I think it might end up being quite messy there. I don't know if the citizens of Wetaskiwin would police themselves and follow the directions that are stapled and posted up there. So I'm against this. Thank you.
Councillor Everly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Elliott, but for a different reason. I cannot see that place staying tidy in general. So already it is hard when we have somebody there, then, and that's not sorting your recycling. That's keeping people from, I'm going to use examples, throwing garden or composting like apples and stuff into what should be garden waste, dropping off their paint cans whenever they wish. As a point, my husband asked if he could take his mechanical bike, whatever, not mechanical, electric bike to the recycling center because he saw that as an electronic, and he's relatively intelligent. We've been here for a few hours. I can just see that snowballing into a trash pit. I think that is my point, and we would be paying to have that cleaned up. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. I don't think that it would be, because generally speaking, people who recycle have bought in and drank the Kool-Aid. That's why they're there. If it was all about getting rid of crap, they could just throw it in their garbage bin or go to a find a dumpster
Let's set
somewhere.
up a Kool-Aid stand there.
What's that?
Set up a Kool-Aid stand. there.
Exactly. As far as your concern about mixing paper with cardboard or plastics with tin cans, we're not bringing in very much revenue anyway. So I think it was $10,000. So even if, because we're not sorting properly, we only get $2,000, well, that's a long ways from $60,000, even if we aren't perfect sorters in the world. So I am in full support.
Councillor Nielsen.
I'm in support. I am in support of this motion as well. I would concur with Councillor Billingsley. I have confidence in our community that they understand why the recycling is there. And those people who access that facility will, for the most part, attempt to do their very best to put the stuff where it belongs. And so I will be in support of this motion.
How should I word this one? All right. Thumbs up if you want to keep the recycling attendant there. Not there. One, two, three, four.
Effective what date?
I will leave that to administration.
Diana, let's do May so we can give everybody notice.
Hmm?
Doesn't really matter, I guess, with notice. People are still gonna be able to come.
Keep them there for another month and just not have them help as much so that people get used to not being helped as much. Yes, Councillor Elliott.
Just, sorry to go back on this motion. No, I'm not sorry. I'm going back on this motion just to ask. So that means we won't be able to take cardboard anymore. Because the individual who's out there runs the machine that crushes all the cardboard. So where will the cardboard go? You're not going to trust the public to push buttons and work that very big machine. So I'm just wondering about that. Maybe it's through to Sue. Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, Mrs. Lewin was looking at moving operational pieces to the recycle center out to the landfill. And that was going, because we have people sitting in the shack sometimes for hours with no one coming in. And so that could be something that they're doing as part of their existing job already.
I'll guarantee we'll get complaints about it, and especially if we're moving the cardboard recycling. But we also get complaints about our high taxes too. So if we're being stewards of our good community, there is going to be a little bit of pain that goes along.
So
with
I will have to make
competition.
2 trips. I will have to go to the recycling center. Now I will have to go to the landfill and maybe sit in line for half an hour, waiting for the line to go down. There's
Possibly, yeah.
no,
But it could be one trip, like you could do the landfill and then the recycling center and then home. You don't have to go back home. You would make 2 stops.
yes, I would. That's what, didn't I say that?
No, you said you're making 2 trips.
Oh, sorry, 2 stops. But with the price of fuel and being a senior on a fixed income, this could get very expensive to recycle my cardboard.
Councillor Nelson.
I've been in a number of unattended recycling locations. And in those that I've been in, not one of them had a push the button, crush the cardboard. They were huge bins and you just fill the bins. And when that bin was full, you walk over to another bin and fill the bin. So I don't know that crushing of cardboard necessarily even has to go out to the landfill, as long as you make room for some additional bins to take on the cardboard. But I think that's an administrative problem to solve. I happen to agree with you. I think more stuff will go into our personal garbage cans as it relates to cardboard if you have to make 2 trips. But I made the assumption that you might solve the problem right at the recycling. Yeah.
I will preface this by saying in no means is this a reflection of the value that I hold in our staff. Talking to a number of other municipalities, mayors throughout the province, through my connections with Alberta municipalities, I don't think I have one, I haven't found one other municipality that is going with a 4% COLA to staff. Our staff absolutely deserves it, and I would love to give them the moon. But looking at a 5.12 tax increase, less the $60,000, I would propose a reduction in COLA to 2% as opposed to 4%, which would be another savings of 1.39%, which combined with the recycling center would be a reduction of 1.76, putting us at a 3 point something. Councillor Billingsley.
When you checked with other municipalities and like you say, none of them were doing the 4. The 2 years prior, we, I think combined did a 1, 0 and 1%. What did they do? So in other words, the snapshot you took was just this year.
Yep.
But what about the last 2 prior to that?
That
And
I don't know, but I also,
because we put ourselves in As I said the other day, I'm guilty as anybody and probably more so than most, that we didn't give any or very little.
Yeah. With us going to the 50th percentile though, doing the survey analysis and then also giving a 2% now, I agree that we can't give nothing. I'm just, again, trying to be. Yeah. Councilor Wilson.
I would request that we go in camera.
Sure.
Please and thank you.
Those in favor? Carried.
Lock the doors from the ghosts.
Entertain a motion to come out of camera. Councillor Blatz, those in favor? Carried.
So continuing on,
Yep.
I'd like to reduce the amount that.
Sorry, I was still talking about COLA.
Okay, fine.
I thought you were going to carry on with that. So I'm proposing, like I said, I'm proposing to cut COLA from 4 down to 2%. Which by my math is 1.39%. Diana.
I'll check it. $1.3857, yeah. I'll give you one.
Councillor Lonsdale.
Thank you, sir. When you were first talking about it, I thought you were going to cut from 4 down to 0. And that was something I wasn't going to support. 2% I can. Just in the shape we're in and everything else. And I've said many times before, I've never worked for a company where I've gotten COLA. So it's all kind of new to me too, but 2% I can stand behind.
Maybe I should ask for policy on this. Is council included in COLA?
They are, but we did not add anything to council's salaries this year.
Okay, that would have been my next request. Anything further? Councillor Alonso?
I think it was a couple of years ago or second or third year in, I think we actually had that conversation to make sure that it was taken away from council and whatever year we gave it, that it didn't apply to us. So.
I think that was a one-off though. I think
Okay.
as it's written, that council is a part of.
Okay.
Councillor Wilson.
I'm going to vote against the motion. I think, as Councillor Billingsley say, I can sell 4.86 based on the Rcmp back pay. I think, but
It's not back pay, that's the new contract.
whatever.
Back
Yeah.
pay is separate.
Yeah.
No, but that's a whole other.
No, I understand.
Okay,
But I think to reduce your COLA by 2% simply is going to compound the problem next year or the year after when we try to play catch up once more with other communities. And I think we're being short-sighted there. I understand how it solves a problem today. I'm not sure it solves a problem for tomorrow and years down the road. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Yeah, and I agree to that as well. Just because inflation isn't just at 4%. It's going to be certainly higher than 4. And like I say, we have fallen behind in the last 2 years. And even at 4%, we're falling behind. So 2% even puts us further in behind. So no, will not be in favor of that.
Anything else? So thumbs up, we'll keep COLA at 4%. Thumbs down, we'll have COLA at 2%. Or otherwise. 4% goes down to 2%, sorry.
Pardon?
It's 2%. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You had thumbs down, Councillor? Thank you.
You and I both thumbs up.
Yep.
Your
Just the
worship,
3 of us.
if I could get a motion from council for that, sure. Okay, so that council direct administration to provide staff with a 2% cost of living adjustment in 2022.
Diana, can you add that to the sheet so we can see the tax impact?
Oh, yes, I will. Go over here. Hang on. Yes, I know. Pardon me? Yeah, I can interpret it, yeah. Just maybe to clarify, cost of living adjustment for staff to 2%.
Sure.
I just had that council direct administration to provide staff with a 2% COLA in 2022. That's just straight. Council direct administration to provide staff with a 2% COLA in 2022.
I move that city council direct administration to provide staff with a 2% COLA in 2022.
Moved by Counselor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Counselor Billingsley.
Is that retro?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Our COLA goes to April 1st. All of our changes go April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
On January 1st.
No, Jan-
We changed it a few years ago.
did you change COLA or did you change merit to April 1st?
We changed everything.
Did you? Okay.
Counselor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What was back pay for the RCMP? 560,000?
No.
520?
No,
Closer to 750.
I think it was between 754 and 796.
For us, for Wetaskiwin.
Correct.
Okay, so if we take their 750 and then another $466,000 increase this year, that's $1.2 million that have gone towards the RCMP, and we have no say in that whatsoever. We just pay it. And we respect the RCMP. We want to give our staff 4%. People we see every day, people who have we respect, where we'd like to keep morale up. We want to keep staff with us. We'd like them to stay with us as part of their career. And I think the optics as well to staff are that there's a little less appreciation if we don't give 4%. They took 0 and 1 in the past 2 years. And as Councillor Billingsley said, it's more than 4% right now for the cost of living. And I just think that we need to give them 4%. Thank you.
Counselor Nielsen.
Thank you. I would ask for a recorded vote as well, please.
Is your mic on?
Yes, I was just too far away from it, though. I would ask for a recorded vote, please.
Any further discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Yes. Are you getting a medical assist call?
No, not, oh. It's like one out of 7 or 8 so far that weren't, no, 2 out of 7 or 8 that weren't EMS assist.
So, Mr. Mayor, may I bring up the topic of medical assists? How much would it cost approximately each time our firefighters go to a medical assist, just approximately?
I would say you'd probably average $20 a member based on pay scale times anywhere from 2 to 10 members.
Plus equipment?
Plus the truck. That's just purely salary. What do we charge an hour for the trucks? 500?
I can't remember, but I do remember Deputy Chief saying that it was approximately $250 per,
Per call.
Yeah.
And that's just our cost. That's not running the truck, fuel, anything. That's
And about how many would there be in a year?
stats from 2021 in the city were 170.
And of those 170, how many were you really necessary to be there?
I would say absolutely necessary, probably 10 or 15%.
10 or 15%. So if the fire department were called out when absolutely necessary, as opposed to when somebody would like to have them there, would that not be a savings to the city of Wetaskiwin? And would that maybe reduce the cost, which may reduce our tax rate?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, I know that Mr. Edgington plans to bring back a level of service review to council upon his return and to speak directly to this. So I think there's going to be an opportunity real soon to look at that.
It would just be too late to have any budget implications. Okay, thank you.
And we might cut 144 medical calls out, but if we have a dry spring, we could have 144 grass fires. Like you never know what your time is going to be filled with. Councillor Billingsley, sorry, I skipped you there. Mike?
I'd like to revisit the grant and aid. How much did we provide to Prism Wetaskiwin? Tentatively,
$3,000.
I'd like to change that to 0.
Probably not specifically. It would be a motion that would cover all of the grant and aid, right? You don't need a motion for each individual one.
No, just
So it would
that.
just be a straw poll right now to support Councillor Billingsley's request, and then we would handle that all at once. Councillor Hanson.
Mike? Yes. I guess I'm looking for some help here. So through the chair to Councillor Billingsley. We've created diversity and inclusion goal focus in our community. Does this motion minimize our goal and focus on diversity and inclusion in our community?
In my mind, no. In my mind, no. It has more to do with the lack of reporting that we received last year. So therefore, at this point, I just would rather move on and
So for clarity, then, you're still supportive
Oh,
of
absolutely.
diversity and inclusion. It's a reporting issue
it
that
has,
concerns
it
you.
has, it's a reporting issue. It has nothing to do with the organization or what they stand for. And I
Thank
guess that should be very clear.
Thank you.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to council, my concern with the argument in that is that this is ultimately a new group. So I just need, it's not, it was an individual, not necessarily a group into the name changes. So it's somebody new that is, it is a new group requesting money from us. And that is why I'm struggling with voting in favor of this motion. And I just don't know moving forward if there are other options for us to do. I don't think I would support it based on how it's been presented so far. Thank you.
What's?
Yeah.
I don't think I followed your.
Sorry, I think based on, I'm not supporting the motion right now based on the reasoning behind it, only because the way I'm looking at it is this is a new group requesting money from us, and not a previous group that has not given us information on their funding.
Gotcha. Okay. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The previous group under the same leadership was given money from the city. Part of the policy is they must give a financial report to the city at the end of the year. Under the same leadership with a different name, this group, which has not established credibility, is asking for money. And I would agree with the motion to decline. Thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Nielsen.
I also am a little bit concerned with regard to precedent. So if we fund a group that splits to create a second group, do we now fund 2 groups? And if each of those groups split, do we now fund 4 groups? Or is there a group providing support and services in our community to meet the needs of the people that need that particular group? So I think if we continue to fund groups that simply split to create new entities, we're setting ourselves up for something down the road here that might be problematic. So I'm going to support the motion.
Or if you've been a part of a group or you've received funding, didn't fulfill the duties of said funding,
Create a
but
new one.
start a new group
Yeah.
and get new funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you.
Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Or straw poll, sorry.
Oh, we're strong.
Yes, forgot it wasn't an actual motion. Diana, what would we have, aside from the infrastructure tax reserve that we have $1.5 million going into, do we have other funds dedicated to reserves?
Going into the reserves
Correct.
this year? Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the infrastructure, and we've got the fire, which has 275,000.
Yeah.
We've also got an IT reserve transfer. I believe we've also established a transfer in HR for the compensation review. We're doing 2 years. We've done something similar like that for the election. We've set up a multiple year transfer to reserves so that we have the funding for the election. That's just off the top of my
Okay, no,
head.
that's fine. Can I assume you want the budget, this passed today?
Preferably.
Can we have what our budgets or what our reserves are going to be at our next meeting? Like,
Yeah, I understand. what
Yeah.
you're saying, yeah.
so not only our infrastructure tax reserve, but our, I'm drawing a blank on names of reserves,
You want to December 31st, 2022 then?
projected, yeah.
Okay.
not contingency, stabilization.
So in
Yeah.
terms of the stabilization, I just wanted to remind council, earlier on in, prior to actually budget deliberations, one of the motions I asked of council for a couple of reasons was funding the ice plant from MSI as opposed to the stabilization reserve.
Yep.
Council agreed with that. As a result of that, it was 1.1 million that was left in the stabilization reserve. Throughout our discussions, we've said that 500,000 we might want to earmark for the retro pay for the RCMP, which would leave 600,000 in the stabilization reserve at this point in time that council could access for tax stabilization. This is something, that's the purpose of the stabilization reserve, is to stabilize your taxes. In any event, that was just a, I wanted to summarize for council that those funds would be available to council.
Some of, not all of, but some of the things that we've approved through this aren't just one-time costs, right? So if we stabilize this year, we would then be putting the onus on next year's tax, potentially next year's tax bill.
Possibly, but then if you took, for example, 1% out of the stabilization this year, you would still have more than 1% in the stabilization reserve for
Right.
2023 and potentially up
Gotcha.
to 2024.
Councillor Nielsen and Councillor Billingsley.
No pass, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Billingsley.
Just because I like sitting with everybody here, I'd like to have a conversation about the infrastructure reserve. And I know that we're down to 3.47, and I've stated it a few times over the last few budget meetings that we've had. We built that up to $1.5 million with 2017, 2018 dollars. But we quit. And if we continue to go this way, that $1.5 million in 10 years isn't going to buy you a whole lot compared to what it would have 3 years ago. I would like us to take a look at adding to that by inflation, at least. Even because we already know that we have an infrastructure deficit that's huge and we're not even adding to it. I would like us to add whatever you want, a number, call it 3-4% to the $1.5 million.
So you want to add 3 or 4% to this? So we'd be looking at like 6 or 7.47?
In other words, looking at, at some point, we're going to have to.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm asking what you're looking for as a target.
So 3% of, or even 3% of 1.5 million is what? 45,000, correct?
I think so. I'm going to double check.
Yeah.
$45,000.
Yeah.
So you
That's
wanna
being light.
add- Pardon?
And that's probably being light.
So that would be like just over 1/4% added. What would 0.52% be?
Half of
0.52 on 160,
0.52.
so a little over 180. Sorry, just a little over 80. Yeah.
So you're saying 5%?
No, 0.52. So that would bring the tax increase to 3.99.
Oh, I see. 0.52 of, what was it, 160?
So
So it'd be 80 grand.
83,304.
Times 0.52. Yeah.
And then 83,000 would be dedicated to the infrastructure tax reserve.
And I'm wondering then if we don't then direct come up with if we as a group don't come up with a formula going forward of what that should look like. If it's 2%, 6%, because this is far more than 3%. If 45,000 was 3%, we're at 80. You're closer to 5.5 to 5.75%, which is a little bit more than inflation or close.
5.5%. Yeah.
Right.
But if we're behind,
I know. This doesn't even come close, right?
but it's a start.
But it's a start. I could support that. The 83 to take us to an even 4.
3.99.
To who? What are you looking to get reelected? Optics.
And at Walmart. Like 3.97. So proposed then, right now we're sitting at 3.47. Proposing a 0.52% to the infrastructure tax reserve, bringing us to a 3.99% increase for 2022. Any discussion? Thumbs up if you're okay with that. Okay. Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you. Just looking for some clarification here, please, Diana, if I may, through the chair. I see here at COLA at 2%, we see a decrease of $222,000. Is that correct? So that represents 2%.
Yeah.
So 1% would represent 111,000. Pretty easy math. So we've just had a conversation about the stabilization reserve, which is intended to offset stabilized taxes. And the conversation that we had previously that was hotly contested over COLA at 2%, we were attempting to stabilize our tax rate. So we had a decrease of 2% in COLA to stabilize our tax rate. My question is, my motion is, council directs administration to take $111,000 out of the stabilization account and apply it to the already approved 2% COLA, increasing COLA from 2 to 3%. So we have still stabilized our tax rate. And we've recognized as best we can our staff. And it has no impact on the tax rate.
Moved by Councilor Nielsen. Any discussion? Councilor Abraham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to council, my voting in favor of the 2% COLA towards the staff is not reflective of the work I believe that the staff does, in the sense of, I think it's negative, so we shouldn't give them what they owe. I am at the point where I think that right now, and I'm just giving you my reasoning, right now, something is better than nothing, because when I came into budget a long time ago, despite what a good job I think everybody does, I was not prepared to offer any COLA, because that is the state that most places are in. And we continue to hear things of, well, it's better than asking people to take a pay cut multiple ways. So a 2% based on that. I do not want to, however, I won't vote in favor of this one either, because this is now just juggling money for how are we setting ourselves up to not have that money. into a position. So I would rather say thank you at this point with my 2% COLA being better in my world than zero, putting the money back into stabilization where we could, the stabilization reserve where we are seeing that it has to interact for inflation. We will all still be on council as the market survey comes back, as these things continue to look forward, and we can make decisions at that point. So I am not in favor of this motion, and those are some of my reasonings.
Councilor Billingsley?
So Diana, I guess my question is to you then. Sorry. So after next year, we would have a choice to make, either increase the tax by that $111,000 or continue to take that money out of stabilization. Is that
Stabilization.
correct?
Yeah. I guess it would be dependent as well on what was happening throughout the budget. It's difficult at this point in time to say what the 2023 budget is going to look like and what funding you're going to need. Also, for example, if council will have choices. Number one, if you have significant physical assessment growth, then that would offset some of the costs of the 111,000, right? Because you'd have a revenue from the assessment growth, the physical assessment. Alternatively, at the same time, council could consider the franchise fees as an option as well. So there would be other options that council could look at. But ultimately, if all things were the same, you would have to find the 111 in the stabilization reserve to fund it.
Or taxes?
Or taxes, yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Nielsen?
Which I would argue that when we were talking about 4%, we would have had to find that next year. Part of the reason why I suspect it was voted down. So no matter 2%, you're going to have to find next year as well.
Nope. For the COLA? No, we don't. Once it's been added to the budget, that's now, it's there. If you want to give a COLA again next year, that's added. But right now, that 2%, you don't have to find another 2% next year.
No, not
to
another
maintain
2%.
that.
That's correct.
No,
So
so we're not finding another, yeah. We're not finding another 2% to match this year's COLA.
No.
Yeah.
You got to find. I hear what you're saying. I think we're talking the same language. The end result is we still will owe $110,000 next year, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after, as part of this.
With your 1% now?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Anything further?
I just want to clarification on both, actually three different organizations, the library, FCSS, and WALA. I know that because I sit on the WALA board, the requisition did go up. That was, we never even talked about it. I just want to make sure that their increase in the requisition was added to the budget.
Just one sec. Just have to bring that spreadsheet up.
School tax requisition as well.
Well, the school tax, it's in and out. So it has no impact on the bottom line because we have to levy to collect the taxes.
Yeah, but it's still an increase.
Oh, yes, no doubt. Yeah, yeah.
But the library or FCSS would have gone up.
Well,
So with the library, we increased the amount that was originally in the budget to 504,400 because according to the lease agreement or to the agreement with the library, council has to start at what they had approved in the previous year. And that's included in the
So
budget,
that's what we're giving them is the same,
the same as we gave them last year.
correct? Okay, I
Right.
just wanted to make sure that that's the number
Yeah.
that we had.
And we kept the same amount for
That's what I'm
FCSS.
saying.
Yes, we, and what was the other one you asked?
Walla.
Oh,
It's-
that one.
Is it separate?
Yes.
It is, hey? Okay, just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
it's a, oh, if it's a requisition, so it's an in and out, it has no impact on the tax requirement.
We don't collect Walla.
We do.
We do. We,
But it's not on our tax base.
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, we actually have a tax rate that we apply.
Yeah.
So you've got your municipal, you've got your school, and you've got your WALA.
Perfect, thank you.
Unfortunately, that when the taxes go out, city taxes went up 9%, but 2.5 of that was school, 3 was,
Walla,
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Anything else? Just set up a blinder right there. I'm gonna get you and Gabby to switch spots because I don't ever see her. Okay,
A motion, if we
Yes.
could get a motion, that council adopt the 2022 operating budget adjusted as summarized on the tax impact spreadsheets with a final tax requirement increase of 3.99%.
we're gonna do a really good job of communicating how that's broken out, especially the RCMP increase. And the infrastructure tax as well. But it's not just us spending. And I guess the increase to power and gas, that was substantial as well. Yes, no more GPOT.
Yeah.
GPOT, grants in place of taxes.
Plus the RCMP for the biologics tests.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
That was almost 40,000. It would be close.
Yeah,
Somebody want to make that motion? Counselor Aberley.
I move that council adopt the 2022 operating budget adjusted as summarized on the tax impact spreadsheets with a final tax requirement increase of 3.99%.
Moved by Counselor Aberley. Any discussion? Counselor Elliott.
Why does the word adjusted have to be there? Why can't it just be the operating budget as summarized because we've made all the changes? So the changes are all there.
mhm.
So why does it have to be adjusted?
Because until the budget is approved at a specific rate, the budget is not adjusted. With all of these decisions that you've made, I still have to adjust the original budget that you saw to reflect all of these changes.
But isn't it still summarized?
It's summarized here, yes. All it's saying is that the adjusted as summarized on the tax impact spreadsheets. So at this point in time, what administration will be going to do is we will take all of council's decisions and incorporate them into
No, I
the,
understand all
Yeah.
of that. But in the end, all you're going to end up with is a summary sheet of all of the changes.
we already have that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to end up with a budget at 3.99%. That's the bottom line, if you
Yeah.
want to word it that
No,
way.
that's fine. I
Yeah.
don't need to stay here any longer.
Yeah.
It's been. Yeah. It's funny, going like this is, I don't know, I'm not compared to Counselor Elliott and the number of budgets that he's been through, but the number of budgets that I've been through and how it changes from year to year, and obviously priorities change and emergencies come up, but there's never there's not two that are the same when you line them up and are working through it. And it's amazing to see how things transform from when we started a month ago or however long ago until now, to go through 4 days of budget deliberations to see where things change and move and shift and yeah, that's because we
Only
did it over
feels like it.
2 days. Yeah,
One quick one. This is assuming a 1% increase. Is that as far as assessment goes?
No, it's actually 0.053. It's less than
0.53?
1%.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
I can put those numbers together for you. It's a very small increase.
anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Counselor Blitz,
I would like to move to adjourn.
those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.